Our next speaker is Bob Kemerait, and he's going to talk about an assessment of Inpyrfluxam as a component of a program for the management of peanut diseases. And I'm sure Bob will pronounce that more appropriately when he begins.
You know, David, I'd like to, but I usually just say Excalia because I'm not sure exactly how to say Inpyrfluxam, but it sounded good to me. You know, 2 weeks ago, I didn't have time. I hadn't done my presentation. Couldn't send a backup in. A week ago, I decided I didn't need to. Yesterday, I decided it was too late. And this morning, David, or this afternoon, I'm hoping I don't need a backup. So let's get going. My name is Bob Kemerait. I'd like to recognize the co-authors on this paper, Tim Berneman and Albert Culbreth. They have not participated directly in these trials, but everything that we're talking about today, we've collectively worked on to try and see ways that we can use the Inpyrfluxam in terms of peanut growers and programs in Georgia. I'd also like to recognize Hunt Sanders from Valent USA, and he's been very much involved with us in these protocols. Very briefly.
Bob, I think you might need to share your screen for us.
I thought it was shared.
You look great, but you weren't sharing the screen.
Did I sound good?
You sounded fantastic.
As long as I sounded good. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. Can you see that?
Yes, just need it in presentation mode.
That's what happens when I get two presentations open at the same time. So as we go forward, fungicides and peanuts in Georgia, fungicides are critical for peanut production. Growers have access to new products, and we'll see those new products, but there's a lot of confusion. One of the most important things I talk about as an extension specialist is what is a program that's most appropriate for you. The cost of fungicide programs is a concern. We use Peanut RX to try and reduce the amount of inputs. It offers opportunities to adjust fungicide programs based upon risk. And fungicide resistance is a problem of increasing concern, whether growers recognize it or not. Here's a slide up until recently of the kind of fungicides that are available to mix and mash and put in a program. One of the most important thing growers have, and the questions they have, is how do we use these fungicides most appropriately, most cost effectively? And when you move forward and you have a new fungicide that's just been labeled and we're using it in the field now, Excalia, the question becomes even more important to growers is how do we use that fungicide? How do we integrate it? And how does it compare to what we've already been using? And so the objectives of my presentation today were to compare programs, less about comparing an active ingredient versus an active ingredient, a fungicide versus a fungicide, but to compare programs containing Excalia for management of stem rot and leaf spot diseases as compared to solatenol and azoxystrobin, which is popularly known as Elatus, and flutolanil, which is popularly known as Convoy. I'll get to some conclusions right now as we move forward, but basically, Excalia, depending upon risk and rate, is highly effective white mold product, but must be partnered for leaf spot control. It's an SDHI fungicide. When coupled with a choice of fungicide or fungicides for leaf spot control, performed as well as some of our most effective programs. And it may be an important tool for fungicide resistance. Okay, a little bit about Excalia. The active ingredient, Inpyrfluxam, is a group 7. It's in the same chemical class of flutolanil, fluxapyroxate, solatenol, penthiopyrad. It's a suspension concentrate formulation. The maximum rate that can be used in any single application is 4 ounces per acre. We're going to be looking at growers using 2, 3, and 4 ounces per acre. The maximum rate is 8 ounces per season. And the most important thing from a grower perspective is when they've been used to using 16 ounces or 9.5 ounces or 32 ounces, even a single application, can they really get the control they need with 2, 3, or 4 ounces? That's where the results come in. That's where the extension comes in. One thing, it's not labeled for aerial application. It's very strong. We'll see on white mold or stem rot. It's good on rhizoctonia. It's also labeled for sclerotium, though I don't have any data, but it's suppression only for leaf spot diseases. If you're going to use Excalia, we need to mix something with it. Description of our small plot trials, randomized complete block design, always with 4 replications. Trials were conducted between 2018 and 2020. primarily in Attapulgus, but also in Midville. One of the things I liked about Dr. Prosco's presentation is that he was able to combine data, the same trial across locations. These trials varied from year to year, and so unfortunately I can't combine them statistically, but we'll look at them and see by trial by trial. Trials were planned 6-year Tifguard. We used the appropriate rates, as we'll see, appropriate timings. As I show A through G, there's a 14-day interval between each letter. For example, C is 60 days, D would be 74 days, and E is approximately 90 days. We used a CO2 backpack sprayer, 82 flat fan tips, 15 gallons per acre. A leaf spider sprayer on the right-hand side is not what we use, but I just got it fixed, and I'm very excited about that, as my team is, so they don't have to backpack quite as much. So I put the picture in. Ratings were leaf spot on the Florida 1 to 10 scale, stem rot, hits per 50 feet of row, and yields in terms of pound per acre. We did analysis of variance with Fisher's protected analysis at the 0.1 level. Okay. Just to show what some of our sample programs would have been, this is the peanut RX from Valent, the Excalia. We can use 2-ounce rates for low risk, 3-ounce rates for low to medium risk. It can be either 3 ounces twice at the 60 and 90 days. Sometimes we'll go out at 45 with a 2-ounce rate, 3 ounces at 60 and 90 days. And in a very high pressure situation, sometimes we'll go out with 4 ounces at 60 and 90 days. And again, the question most growers have is, can we really use that lower rate and get the disease control we expect? Okay. The 2 diseases we're most interested in Georgia would be late leaf spot. We have 2 leaf spots, early leaf spot and late leaf spot, but the late leaf spot has been primarily our biggest problem. And again, the question we have with Excalia, we know that it's only for suppression of late leaf spot, but can we get in a program the amount of control we need when mixing with other products? And primarily you'll see this in these trials, we use chlorothalonil. Southern stem rot, also known as white mold in Georgia, is the primary factor that we're using a product like Excalia for. And this is what most of our growers have problems with as far as fungal diseases, difficulty in control. And before they move to a product like Excalia from what they have been using, they want to know that's going to be effective. We measure this using the HIT method. This is actually tomato spotted wilt virus, obviously, but a HIT is any portion of a row affected by stem rot within a 12-inch measurement. Okay. Primarily to set these up in 2018 was through the Florida final leaf spot rating. We took multiple leaf spot ratings, but the final one is at the end of the season prior to harvest on the Florida 1 to 10 scale. 10 would be completely dead plants. 1 is no leaf spot. We now have in gray, this would be the untreated. Typically in red is in this case, it's not, but typically red would be Bravo. In this case, it's our combination of Convoy, flutolanil with Bravo. A Bravo Elatus program 3 times with 7.3, a Bravo Elatus program with 9.5 ounces of Elatus, a Bravo Fontellus program, and then across in the orange and in the yellows are various rates of Excalia. I won't go over what the different rates are. Most important thing to note is that in terms of leaf spot control, in 2018 at Attapulgus, we had nearly 75% defoliation where we did not treat, where we use primarily Bravo in combination with Convoy, where we about 10% defoliation. And you could see where chlorothalonil was mixed with the other products and used appropriately. You could see that we're down around 5%, approaching 5% defoliation. But Excalia mixed with those products or mixed with the chlorothalonil did very well compared to the others. We'll look at the stem rot ratings. Again, this is hits per 50 feet of row. You can see that the white mold pressure was very low. We have very low. Even in the untreated, we're only about 10% white mold. Here's our Convoy program. Here's an Elatus at 7.3. Here's the 9.5 ounce rate. Here's the Fontellus program. And you could see across the board, no statistical difference in these different Excalia programs. Different rates, different timings between 2, 2.65, and 4 ounces, but you can see they were very comparable, not statistically different than the other programs we use, the very popular programs using Elatus and Convoy. And when we looked at yield, statistical difference between the untreated, but here is the Bravo Convoy, the Elatus at 7.3 ounces used 3 times, the Elatus used 9.5. You can see as we go across, the Excalia programs and the latest, no statistical difference, very, very close, some noise in the data. The Excalia was generally as good as our best programs involving Convoy or the latest. Look at a similar program in 2019, the untreated. This is a leaf spot again. This is 99% defoliation. We had a 50% defoliation where we used only Bravo. And where we use combinations of Elatus Alto, we were down around 20% defoliation. Combinations of Excalia, Bravo, and tebuconazole were not quite as good as the Elatus plus the Alto Bravo, but they were close. We still maintained control. They were at least as good as if we'd used a Bravo program. More importantly, when we look at the amount of white mold, we had 21 hits where we had the untreated, at 10.8 with the Bravo. We don't expect to see any control from the Bravo, but it was lower. And here's our latest program, 9.5 ounces, 2 ounces of Excalia, 3 ounces twice of Excalia, 2.65 ounces of Excalia 3 times, and 4 ounces of Excalia twice. So it's nicely right in with the latest program. When we look at yields, a little bit of noise, but here's the difference between using no white mold fungicide and white mold fungicide. We made about 800 pounds per acre more. When you look across the board at the Excalia, no statistical difference except for this one, which is tough to explain, but all fairly comparable to what we got with the latest program. 2 more studies to go, a second program in Attapulgus that year, very low disease pressure where we didn't treat at all. In gray was 50% defoliate at the end of the season. Here we see 20% with Bravo only. And if you look across the board, here's the Elatus, here's the Convoy plus Bravo, here's the Excalia programs, a little bit lower than where we had just the Bravo by itself. You'll see we maintain leaf spot control. Excalia suppresses but does not control. When we look at the white mold, 16.5 and 15, where we did not have white mold control, the Elatus at 9.5 ounces. You go across, here's the Excalia. They're very comparable to what we got with 2 applications of the Elatus. And when you look at yield, Elatus at 9.5 ounces, 5,071, the Convoy 5352, Excalia 5315, a little bit of noise, but 5330 with the Excalia going out at 3 ounces twice at 60 and 90 days. So again, looks very strong and comparable to what we have. Last slide to look at is 2020. Again, not much disease pressure. We were less than 20% defoliation at the end of the season. The Bravo gave us about 10% defoliation. You can see the latest program where we had Provo Silver involved. Here's the Convoy program, the latest program, Excalia plus Provo Silver. Here's the Excalia plus Bravo, the Excalia Bravo Teb, and you can see leaf spots about the same. We look at stem rot control. You can see very comparable across these programs, not much out here. That's the problem with this trial. When you get that low with the Bravo, you're not having much to go on. When you look at yields, even in low disease pressure situations with low leaf spot and low white mold, 5,200 pounds with Bravo, 5,100 pounds where we didn't put any fungicide out, but we did see some yield increase with the Excalia programs and with the Convoy Teb. Results and conclusions we can say from this is the first thing is Excalia programs perform comparably to the latest and Convoy programs for disease control and yield, using the leaf spot programs that were similar amongst the latest, the Convoy, and the Excalia. Various rates and timings of Excalia programs offer confidence and flexibility. Growers can use different rates. They could use different timings based upon their risk. Excalia plus Convoy or plus chlorothalonil is slightly better than chlorothalonil alone. We do get some suppression from Excalia, but we would never spray it without the chlorothalonil mix. And finally, the choice of an Excalia program should be determined based upon the risk in the field. And with that, I'd like to say thanks to the staff, the Attapulgus Research and Extension Center, Valent USA, and my team of staff, student workers, and those who are involved in our program, both at Attapulgus and at Midville. And with that, David, I'll stop and answer any questions if there are any.
Thanks a lot, Bob, for a great presentation. I think just because of time, we'll move on to our next presentation. Thanks again, Bob.
You're welcome.
And